What's going on, everybody? It feels like it's been a very long time since I've uploaded a video here, but we do have a new DC movie out, and it is the Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of the One Harley Quinn, or A One Harley Quinn, whatever it's called, that long-ass title. And do I, as you can see from the title, you can kind of get what I thought about this movie. If you want to know my full-blown thoughts, and I'm talking about right after the movie happened, because I recorded a podcast with my co-host, Fanboy Clay. Go download the podcast Batman News Weekly for this week. Link in the description. It is already out as this movie. If you're watching this video, it is already on the internet. So go listen to that podcast if you want to know my full-blown details right after the movie. We recorded immediately after we watched this thing. So yeah, we got to see it on Tuesday. We got a little sneak peek screening. And so yeah, if you want to hear just our unfiltered opinions on this movie, go download the podcast, go listen to it. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple, and a bunch of other podcast places. But in this video, I want to go over the top 10 worst things about Birds of Prey, and I do want to preface this because I know people are going to be like, you're such a hater! This is just my opinion. If you loved Birds of Prey, hey, I'm glad that you loved it. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, because you know what? Not every movie is made for every single person. My mindset is coming from this at a very comic book oriented mindset. Like, I love comic books. I love these characters. There are plenty of reasons why I didn't like it. If you loved it, awesome. I'm happy for you. And you know what? You're actually in the majority, because it's getting good critic reviews and it's getting good audience reviews. So I'm actually in the minority here. But you know what? I've always been somebody that tells my pure, honest opinion here. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the top 10 things that I thought were worst about Birds of Prey. And to be honest, at the end of the video, if you guys enjoyed this, let me know, and I'll do a top 10 things that I loved about Birds of Prey. So you know what? I'll give the good and the bad. Just let me know if you want to see that. But let's go ahead and jump into the list, and starting at number 10, and these aren't in any particular order, I just wrote them down this way. At number 10, the title, Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of the One Harley Quinn. It didn't feel like either of these things, to be honest. Just watching this movie, I didn't feel like this actually brought the Birds of Prey together. Although, and they tried to do it at the end, you know, at the end of this movie. Also, if you don't know, spoilers, hardcore. But yeah, they tried to bring the Birds of Prey here at the end of the movie, and it was just kind of lackluster. It was very weak, and I think that's kind of what DC has been very bad at when it comes to their cinematic universe. When it comes to teaming up, they do a very bad job at it. They're just all like, you're a team now, yay! And it's never like that badass, awesome Avengers moment in Avengers 1 where they're all standing together in a freaking circle and it's panning around them. Like, that was the pivotal moment in the MCU. You're just like, oh! But that doesn't happen in DC. It's just like, oh yeah, now they're the Birds of Prey. Like, it was kind of sad and kind of weak. And if you just shift away from Birds of Prey, right, let's just throw that out the window. If you focus on the Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, it didn't really feel that way. Like, I know they try to be like, oh, she beats off Black Mask because he's coming after her, but you never really felt that Harley was like struggling, or, you know, that she was ever really, I don't know, they try to do it, like she's drinking and stuff, and she's like, oh, you want to know what a Harlequin is? They try to bring that across in the movie, but I never felt for Harley like, fuck, I wish she would just be better, I wish she could be happy. I never felt that, because it was just so crazy. There was so much craziness going on that, I don't know, it blows my mind. Also, my co-host, Fanboy Clay, told me that this whole movie happens in a day. Everything, like, happens in a day, apparently, or that's what they want you to think. So how is somebody going to get emancipated in one freaking day if that's, like, the idea of this happening? And it just really did not work, in my opinion. And the whole Joker-Harley relationship, it's over in, like, 2 minutes at the start of the movie. And I was just like, what? And they tried to do it in animation, and they tried to do it in the first, like, 2 or 3 minutes of the movie, and it's just over. I'm like, no. Like, if you're trying to, you need to really ingrain that. You gotta show people how bad that relationship was and how she's gonna fight and get out of it. And yeah, I just thought it was just, the title is just a very bad job. Like, I mean, in both aspects, for Birds of Prey and the Emancipation part, I just don't think it worked. Moving on to number 9, the editing in this film. And you could say this is also part of, let's just go ahead and throw number 8 in there, story. But I am going to focus on number 9, because the editing was just, it was very Suicide Squad, if I could make that comparison, because it was all over the place. And this one might have been a little bit more all over the place than Suicide Squad, although the one thing a lot of people are going to use as a defense of this movie and the crazy editing is like, oh, that's very Harley Quinn. Because if you've ever read a Harley Quinn comic book, her comic books are kind of all over the place a lot too. So the way Harley is telling this story, it makes sense that it's all over the place. It's supposed to be like, oh yeah, and then this happened, and oh my god, I almost forgot about that, and yeah, then there's this. And so I can understand that mindset, and that's why it feels so weird. But a movie should flow very well. And this one is like, all right, it's starting to get good, and bam, here's this other random little story, and then bam, here's this other random little story, and now we're back into the original story, and then bam, here's another story. And it just started so much that it kind of threw you out of the movie, and I think that was just not a good decision on the part of the director, the editor, the studio, to be honest. I just thought the movie just did not flow very well. And, another thing that it did very similar to Suicide Squad was there wasn't really a soundtrack, or I should say a score, to this movie. It was just all like pop music, rap music. Let's just throw all of these random ass, music, songs in there. And I don't think it necessarily worked. And, it was just kind of all over the place. And I didn't like that. I love when there's an actual score to a movie, and this was just a bunch of random songs that they threw over fight scenes. And I wasn't a really big fan of the editing and the way that worked, because I don't think it helped the story, which is number 8, the story. Because with the editing, the way they told this story, because editing goes hand in hand with it, again, was all over the place. This story should have been about Harley protecting Cassandra Cain. That's what it should have been. They should have come together somehow, whether it had been stealing the diamond like it was, but she's protecting her. It shouldn't have been like Black Mask is trying to, forcing Harley to go get this girl. It should have been like they ran into each other. They're both outcasts. They grow together, and they're like, oh yeah. And she's trying to protect her from everybody else. Black Mask could have easily had freaking Black Canary go hunt down Harley because he knows that Harley's protecting the girl, and then Huntress is trying to hunt down this girl because Black Mask wants her. The police are trying to hunt her down. Like, you could have easily had a straight line in this story and had all of these other characters just follow along and continue the story that way, and then they all realize, like, oh man, Black Mask is the bad guy here. We should all help out and protect this little girl from Black Mask. And that's not really what happened here. It does kind of try to happen that way, but it was just so convoluted because every time somebody jumped in, it was like, oh, let me tell you their backstory. When you could have just molded the backstory into the just story that was happening, opposed to like, let me take you out of the flow and just go, we got to explain, 10 minutes of this person's origin. And it was just all over the place. You could have people's origins come about in freaking conversation, you know what I mean? Like, Harley can be like, so what's your story? And then she could have been like, I don't want to talk about it. And then she reveals it later on, maybe after a dramatic fight or something, and be like, yeah, I'm just trying to kill this guy because he killed my family, or blah, blah, blah. Like, that could have been Huntress' story. But you just learn through Harley telling you, like, oh yeah, she was the, this blah, 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 daughter of the people that got murdered and shit. It's just, the story and the editing were just all over the place that I could not like it. It was just very bad, in my opinion. Moving on to number 7, which is character development, or the lack thereof, because there really wasn't any in this movie. The movie tries to focus on Harley Quinn, but again, like I said, there really wasn't emancipation happening here. It didn't come across that way in this whole situation. They tried to do it, I just don't think they did it very well. And since this was a Harley story, trying to tell everybody else's story just wasn't very good. We didn't really learn anything about Cassandra Cain. We know that she was an orphan and she steals shit, and that was it. And then she's now Harley's like best friend at the end of the movie. That was it. And then, because like we heard some kind of backstory for Black Canary, and she seemed like she was having a good thing, and we could have learned more about her, but we didn't learn why she's always working with Black Mask, why she's never left him, like everything like that, because she has powers. She could have easily like kicked his ass, but she never left. You know what? We don't really know much more about Huntress besides she just wants to kill everybody, but we could have learned more about her too. Like, what else was she doing? And it was just like they tried to throw it down your throat so fast that you never really got to develop the characters. There was stuff there to develop them, but you just heard their backstories, and then now they're working with Harley Quinn. and you didn't really get to see them grow as characters, and I think that was unfortunate, especially with Cassandra Cain. Like, there was stuff there, especially between Cassandra Cain and Black Canary, that you could have grown that relationship, but nothing really happened. And, like, it was just unfortunate. I feel like everybody just came second fiddle to Harley Quinn. But in a movie that is called Birds of Prey, you would think that they would have all developed very well. But I do all think that this just all comes down to story structure, where they were absolutely just all over the place with this story. Speaking of all over the place, number 6 is random shit that went nowhere, or there was no point in having it in the movie. So you know that scene in the trailer where Harley Quinn is actually like dancing to the Marilyn Monroe thing where she's talking about diamonds are my best friend and all that jazz? That is actually no reason for that scene whatsoever. It comes in a series of events where Harley is actually being, like, not interrogated, but she's about to be killed by Black Mask, but she gets slapped or punched by him, and then she goes into this daze of like, oh, I'm dancing and blah blah blah. But there's really no reason for it. I guess it's to show that Harley tries to go to a happy place when she gets abused. But you could have easily had, because they showed it in the movie, they showed it in the trailer, that Black Mask enjoys performance. He likes people at his club to perform. That's what Black Canary does every time. He could have easily forced Harley Quinn to put on a show like this, like she does in there. But no, it's actually just like a random ass dream sequence that has no point. Like, there's really no point to it. Also, something that was super random, and I think it was just to try to build character development for Black Mask, and I thought this was going to be a turning point in the movie, but it absolutely turned to nothing. There was this point when Black Mask thought that, like, somebody was laughing at him in his club, and he just absolutely degrades this woman in the movie. He's like, get up and dance on the table. He's like, now take off your dress. And it's just like, you start feeling very uncomfortable, and you think that Black Mask is gonna murder this woman in his club, but then just Black Canary cries, and he's like, oh, don't go nowhere. And that's pretty much it. Like, they have to go find Harley after that or whatever. And that was one scene that you could have easily just progressed Black Mask's character, showing him how villainous and how evil he is. And I thought that's what it was going to turn. Like, I was genuinely starting to get Joker vibes at that moment, thinking like, oh crap, this dude is about to humiliate and then murder this woman in his club to show how much of a badass he is. And it was just a random moment, and it didn't lead to anything. Also, another thing that they tried to really, like, emphasize in this movie was Harley Quinn was super in love with this egg sandwich. Like, she's just all about this egg sandwich. And it didn't manifest to anything. Like, so she was just there, and she gets the sandwich knocked out of her hand, right? It's the only thing she wants in life is this damn sandwich, and it falls down. You don't hear about that sandwich again until the very end of the movie when Cassandra Cain just gives it to her. You never had her, like, they don't even have a conversation about, like, hey, this sandwich, you gotta try it, is the greatest thing in the whole wide world. You will die if you eat it. They don't even have that conversation in the movie. Just at the end, Cassandra Cain somehow knows that this is Harley's favorite sandwich. And I thought that was kind of BS. It should have been what they should have done. I don't have no problem with her obsessing about food. No problem with that. I do the same shit. But you gotta show how important that sandwich is to a character, a la like Zombieland, where freaking Woody Harrelson's character, Tallahassee, is obsessed with Twinkies. All he wants to do is find a Twinkie, and they play with that throughout the whole movie. It's not just like, I want a Twinkie, and then he gets a Twinkie at the end. No, everywhere they stop in the movie, he's like, we gotta search this place, there's gotta be a Twinkie. We gotta search this truck because there's gonna be a Twinkie. Like, they do it throughout the whole movie. That's what should have happened with this sandwich in this damn movie. She should have kept bringing it up. She should have kept wanting it. But it was nothing. So random shit that goes nowhere was another problem with this movie. Number 5, no end credit scene. Now, I know this isn't something that DC always does, so it's not the biggest thing, and they try to trick you with this end credit scene that is a black screen, and Harley Quinn's like, oh, you guys are still here? Well, let me just tell you a story of how Batman, and basically she's gonna say like Batman fucked Robin or something like that, but then it just ends. There's no end credit scene. With this particular thing, if you're trying to build a universe, if you're going to try and progress this and show everything's connected, Harley's gonna be in Suicide Squad next year. Like, you could have easily had something that hinted at, like, you could have had Amanda Waller show up and be like, Harley, we need you to come back to the Suicide Squad. Or something along those lines. And that's all you needed to do. That would have been really cool. Or you could have shown a redhead, somebody who's going to be Batgirl, talking to the birds of prey. You could have done something along those lines to progress the universe, to get people excited about the next movie, but they didn't do that. They just tried to go to the comedy route and, you know, do some random ass voiceover thing. So I thought that was kind of weird. Like, this was your moment to progress your story, to get people excited about the next movie, and they don't. You could have even just teased like something about Wonder Woman. You could have had Wonder Woman on TV and had Harley watching her, been like, oh man, I want to meet her someday, or something along those lines. That would have been really cool. And number 4 on the list is making Black Mask gay. Now, I have no problem with the character being gay. Totally down with it. Have no issue. My problem is that they didn't really make him, like, they didn't really show that he was gay in this movie, and they really didn't do anything with it. Like, they just had this weird sexual tension between him and freaking Zaz in the movie, and they never really showcased that he was gay. Like, it was just like, oh, we're just gonna play around with the idea. But, and like, you could put, if you wanted to do like stereotypes and stuff like that, you could easily put those in on this character and be like, oh yeah, he's totally gay. But like, if you were gonna have this thing, like, it's rated R, you can do whatever you want with this movie. Like, dive into that if you want to. Like, he's a club owner, you know, have him hanging out with freaking, like, you know, sexy men or whatever. Or just, you know what, if you wanted to show that there is a thing between him and Zaz, make them kiss or whatever. You had them like right here, face to face, like, ooh, like, do it. Like, you know, what was the point? Like, if you're not gonna go full blown with the character, then don't even bother changing the origin of the character or anything, you know what I mean? So I thought that was just really dumb. Like, they just kind of semi-made Black Mask gay in the movie. Like, go balls to the wall or don't. Like, you know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of dumb, that they were just kind of playing coy with the character of being gay. Like, they should have just went full blown. And I think there was a lot of issues with Black Mask. I heard some people saying he was the greatest freaking DC villain to date. Bullshit. Ocean Master is probably the best villain in the DCEU. A lot of people are going to say Zod. Yeah, you could go with that. But Black Mask being the most dangerous or craziest villain in the DCEU, no, I'd go with Ocean Master, because he actually killed people. He had a plan. He took it to war. He was gangster. Like, he was awesome. Also, comic book accurate. Black Mask looked cool in this movie, but I don't know. That what they did with the character, he wasn't even really that scary. And he's like scary in the comic books. So, I don't know. The whole gay Black Mask thing was pointless because they just tiptoed around it. They never really kind of put it out there 100%. Number 3, piggybacking off of number 4, is this movie felt like it didn't know the characters. Like, genuinely felt like they didn't do the research with the characters. Because, again, Black Mask, they didn't show how crazy or villainous he was. Like, this dude is brutal. Like, he will stab you. He will hit your pressure points. He will cut your face off. He will cut your arms off. He will fuck with you like you have never been fucked with before. And it is insane. It is insane how crazy this guy is in the comic books. And they didn't really show that. They made more Zaz the crazy guy. Even Zaz, they didn't really show, like, his crazy side too. He was just a henchman for Black Mask. And granted, he has been a henchman for people in the past, but this is a guy that every time he kills somebody, he puts a mark on them. And he showed, they did, I will give them that, they did have him talk about that. He told that he wanted a mark right across his heart when he kills Harley. And it was just like, you could have done so much more with these two villains, because they are both so brutal characters in the DC universe. And you had an R-rated movie here. You could have went so much farther with these two characters to make them so villainous that they didn't even know that. Now, going over to the heroes, at times in this movie, I didn't even feel like Harley was Harley at some points. Granted, she's telling the story, she's doing all this stuff, but it just felt like she wasn't Harley at times. Cassandra Cain, we're not even going to get into that yet. That was not Cassandra Cain. You know, Rosie, or I say Rosie, but I mean freaking Montoya. I don't like that Montoya just gave up her job at the GCPD when things got hard. Like, she's always been a badass. She's always fought through shit. She's always been on the side of good, and now she just joins the Birds of Prey to do things her way. Like, she should have been a cop on the inside working with the vigilantes, a la Jim Gordon and Batman. She should have been that liaison into the GCPD for the Birds of Prey, but whatever, she's joined them now. And then Black Canary and Huntress, I will say they did pretty well. Her backstory was good, but you know, when her like joking around trying to introduce herself like, I am Huntress, or I'm Huntress, I am the Huntress. Like, I know that was supposed to be a comedic moment, but Huntress is supposed to be a badass assassin, and she's just like the muscle in this movie, but she could have been so much more because she is such a good character in the comics. Same thing with Black Canary. They showed Black Canary can kick ass, but again, we didn't really learn anything about her. How did she learn to fight? How does she learn to do all that stuff? Why does she get knocked out when she actually uses her powers? You would think Black Mask, if he knew that she had powers, does he not know she has powers? You would think that he's able to actually, he would use those to his benefit. But, and it kind of showed, you know, they made her the muscle, or her new driver, after, you know, Harley broke that dude's legs, which was kind of cool in the movie. But I don't know, I feel like Black Canary could have been so much more because she is a badass. Again, if you wanted to do an after credit scene, you could have had Green Arrow show up and actually like been like, what's up girl, we haven't talked in so long, or something like that. And it could have been a spin-off. It could have been a spin-off to a Green Arrow movie with Black Canary. That would have been so awesome. But I just felt like this movie just did not know its characters, and that kind of upset me because, like, I don't know, like, you could have made this such an amazing comic book movie, and maybe I should have gotten weirded out when they switched Black Canary's, like, I know they, like, you know, they changed her race and everything again. Everybody had a big deal. I was actually like, you could have actually kept this very comic book accurate and still had diversity in the movie. Still kind of don't agree with that, but you know what? Jessie Smollett, I think she is a badass Black Canary. I just wish they would have gave her more Black Canary storyline, if that would have made sense. But yeah, that's number 3. Number 2 is killing villains. And this was the biggest thing, and we talk about it a lot on the podcast, was that they straight up killed Zsasz and Black Mask. And they killed them like that. There wasn't any dramatic suffering or anything. No, they killed them immediately. And Zsasz died like a bitch, and freaking Black Mask just exploded with a grenade. And I don't know, I thought it was all kind of weak. This is literally what happened in the theater. Black Mask falls off a bridge, explodes into a million pieces, and I was like, and I look at my friend Clay, and we're both just absolutely shocked that they just killed Black Mask, who is a badass character that they're building a trilogy in the DC universe for Batman, and you just killed off one of his big characters. You could have had Black Mask show up in the Batman as a freaking badass mob villain, and now he's dead. So, and I know a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, the Batman's not gonna be in the freaking trilogy, blah, 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 it's not gonna be in the DCEU. I'll believe that when I see it. I guarantee you that they're gonna still try to make a Justice League 5-10 years from now with this cast. So I don't think, I would say in 5 years we're getting another Justice League. But I don't think that they're gonna keep Robert Pattinson's Batman out of the DCEU. So now Black Mask and Zsasz, two of the most gangster characters in the Batman vigilante system, or not vigilante, Rogues Gallery vigilante system, what the fuck? The Rogues Gallery are dead. And they died, just, granted, when Zsasz died, I did laugh with how Harley was stabbing him and stuff. I thought that was hilarious. But just killing these characters off, I was just like, wow. Wow! And granted, Harley did it, and Cassandra Cain, but, I mean, it was just kind of, I couldn't believe it. Like, why kill those villains off? You know, Marvel is really big on killing their villains, but when you're going to be building a universe, you can have these people come back. They can be a part of the Legion of Doom. You can do stuff like that. So killing these characters I thought was really bad. I didn't think it was necessary. And yeah, now they're just dead, and they can't really be used in this universe anymore. And finally, we are at the number 1 worst thing about this movie, and it is 100%, 1 billion trillion gazillion % Cassandra Cain. And this isn't for the actress. I thought she was fine. It's nothing on her performance. It's the way they treated her in this movie. Cassandra Cain was complete trash compared to the character in the comic book. I was telling this to Fanboy Clay. The whole movie, I was waiting for the Logan moment to happen. Because if you don't know who Cassandra Cain is, and you just watch Birds of Prey and you're watching this video now, and you've actually made it to all the way to the end of this video, congratulations. But if you know nothing about Cassandra Cain, in the comic books, she is one of the greatest fighters in the DC universe. She could go toe-to-toe with Batman. Her mom is one of the most deadliest people in the DC universe. She is a badass. She is not a badass in this movie. She is a pickpocket, and she could barely defend herself. And I was just waiting for that moment when Cassandra Cain was gonna come out, kick everybody's ass by herself, and we were gonna be like, oh! Nothing. Not one thing happened. She's just a pickpocket, and that is it. They absolutely trashed this character. And I don't know if the game plan was to make her in the next Harley Quinn movie, and she's gonna get trained by Harley Quinn and know how to fight really badass. No. All complete trash. The only way you can save Cassandra Cain now is that she's brainwashed somehow, right? Maybe she still is Lady Shiva's, because they did say she's an orphan, she's got foster parents. The only way you're gonna save Cassandra Cain is like she's under one of those like secret agent spells, right? Where you gotta say like toaster strudel, and then they're like, whoa, and they come out and they're like super badass at fighting. Like she'd have to be under one of those spells, and then she's like, I know how to fight like a badass now, or whatever. It's the only way you can really fix this now, because Birds of Prey completely, absolutely tarnished the character. And you could say that's over dramatic and like, oh, these fanboys are so stupid. I'm just telling you, if you do any research on Cassandra Cain from any of the comic books, you're not gonna find that she's a pickpocket and that she can't fight. Like, everywhere you see her, she was Batgirl, for God's sakes. She was freaking Batgirl. Like, it blows my mind that they did so bad with this character. I was genuinely like just waiting. I was like, when is it gonna happen? When is it gonna happen? There's gotta be that badass Cassandra Cain fight moment, and it never happened. And that was the biggest disappointment in this movie. Black Mask, all of everything I listed before, I can kind of see where they were coming from, but not having Cassandra Cain have a badass fight moment in this movie was the biggest disappointment and the saddest thing you could see from that character. And yeah, that is everything I have to say. The top 10 worst things about this movie, all in a list right there. Again, if you enjoyed this movie, that's awesome. I appreciate you listening to my opinion on this. Doesn't mean you have to agree. I think we can talk about this civilly. But like I said, if you want to hear my full-blown reactions and my friend Clay's reactions, go download the Batman News Weekly podcast. We talk about it for like 50 minutes to an hour. And it's you know, we talk about the things we like too, so you can go check that out. But yeah, it was just Birds of Prey, unfortunately, in my mind, was a huge disappointment. I was expecting a lot. I wanted these girls to be badass, and I wanted them to be true to the characters, and I was just hoping for a really good movie. And I told Clay, I was like, dude, you know what? I could still see this movie doing like $700 million, because Suicide Squad did $700 million. But yeah, I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Those are my top 10 worst. If you want to know what the 10 best moments of Suicide Squad Birds of Prey, let me know in the comment section down below. Tell me to do a top 10 list, and I'll try to get that out sometime next week. Or sometimes in the next few days, I should say. But that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the content we upload here on this channel. I'm going to try to get the podcast to be uploaded here again, but they are going to be shorter podcasts because we still want people to download the actual podcast, because we want to get those numbers up because they're getting kind of like, they're staggering, and we want to start breaking into the triple digits in downloads. But yeah, so those will hopefully be coming back in the future. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Juice Wayne. Remember, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself something. If I have my daily dose of juice, I was going to say something about Batman, but whatever. Anyways, guys, see you guys next time.
I think the girls with their nails done now.